Hi friends, I'm Ms. Katie, a Youth Services Librarian at Skokie Public Library. I'm excited to share some time with you today. This is the first video in our Math Party series, and today we're talking all about shapes. Do you have a favorite shape? My favorite shape is a triangle. I love triangles. I have some other shapes in my bag here. And these shapes are three-dimensional or 3D. Do you know what 3D means? 3D shapes are solid and not flat like you would draw or see in a book. They have corners, they have edges, they have faces. Flat shapes are called two-dimensional or 2D. Now let's take a look at the 3D shapes that I have. So this first one is called a cylinder. And so the cylinder, what shape do you see on its face at the bottom? That's right, that's a circle. And there's another circle on the other end. So you can imagine that a cylinder is like a circle that's stretched out. I really like the shape of a cylinder. It's very simple and clean and beautiful. The next shape I have is a triangle shape. You could also call this a wedge, like something that you would push under a door to hold the door in. So a wedge is kind of interesting because it has different shape faces. So for instance, this shape, what shape is this? That's right, it's a rectangle on this face. On this face is a triangle, and then on the bottom, what shape is that? It has 4 equal sides. That's right, that's a square. So I think that's pretty cool that this one 3-dimensional shape contains several other shapes within it. This next shape I have is a rectangle. But what shape is cut out from the middle? That's right, that's a semicircle. And then the faces on the side are squares. And it also has another rectangle face too. And what could this be used for? Like if you were using this to build something. That's right, you could make a bridge, you could use it as part of a house. There's so many things that you could do with this block. And my next one is a rectangular block. And this one has a thicker rectangle, and then the bottom or the side faces are really much smaller rectangles. And then on this side, this face is a much thinner but long rectangle. And this one is called a cube. And a cube is made up of squares. It's a 3-dimensional square. So it's kind of like if you took a flat square and you stretched it, and it would make a cube. And this one has squares on every side. So all the sides are the same, just like a regular square is. For a regular square, each side is the same length. And my last shape is a fun one. This is called a cone. And the cone on the bottom has a flat, that's right, a flat circle. And if you tip the cone this way and you stretched it out and it was much longer, what do you think that would look like? That's right, an ice cream cone. I love ice cream, and I'm very excited that warmer weather is coming. And for me, that always equals lots of ice cream. Have you noticed that shapes are all around us? Whether you're inside your house or on a walk outside, you can see shapes everywhere. A stop sign is called an octagon. It has 8 sides. A ball is a circle, but it can also be called a sphere. A butterfly's wings are triangle shaped. An egg, my shaker egg, an egg is an oval. And a book is often a rectangle, or it can be a square like this book. Shapes are the building blocks of our world. Once you start looking for them, you will notice them wherever you go. I'd like to share a book with you now that I really love. It's a new book and it's so fun. This is What Can You Do with a Line, written by Gulsa Yaman and illustrated by Kadri Odabasi. It was published in 2020. I am reading this with permission from Crack Boom Books, an imprint of Chouette Publishing Incorporated. What can you do with a line? And I love this line that these little dots are thinking about. What can I do with this? What can I do with this red line? I love drawing lines. What can you do with a line? Let's find out. Follow me. You can draw long lines. We have a blue, yellow, a red line, and short lines. What do those short lines look like? They almost look like a burst of sun or maybe fireworks. Sometimes I feel like drawing thick lines. So here's a thick line, a thicker line, and an even thicker line. Sometimes I feel like drawing thin lines. So here is a thin line, a thinner line, and at the way top, an even thinner line. That is very thin. You can draw lines in so many different colors. See, we have green, purple, red, pink, blue, orange, and yellow. I love all those colors. Lines can curve into circles. Lines can bend into ovals, just like the shaker egg that I had. Lines can turn corners and make squares or rectangles. Lines can take sharp turns and make triangles, just like the wedge block that we had was a triangle kind of shaped like this a little bit. Sometimes a line can take you on a journey and spread happiness along the way. Sometimes lines get sad and form a cloud. Sometimes lines get confused and tangle into a ball. Lines trace the flowing water of a river and carry the notes of a joyful melody. When lines, shapes, and colors get together, they can become anything you can possibly dream of. Look at all those things. I see an ice cream cone, a zebra, a butterfly, and this butterfly's wings. What shape is that? That's right, a circle. I see a tiger with stripes, a book, a house. What can you do with a line? What can you do with a line? I love that question. A line is so simple, yet it is the foundation of everything. The possibilities are so exciting. I hope you'll stick around and join me for our printing activity next. I'll be creating with a few of my special friends. I'll see you there. I'm here with two of my favorite artists, Orson and Edwin, and we are going to do some object printing today. We will see what patterns, shapes, and creations we can make with some paint and objects we've gathered from around the house and outside. So these are the projects we found to print with. We have Duplo box, a plastic fork, a few old buttons with different shapes, a toilet paper roll, a seashell, a binder clip, a wine cork or a bottle cap, a toothbrush, a pine cone, and some pom-poms. We cut up an old but clean damp sponge to make paint pads for each color similar to a stamp pad and poured the washable tempera paint on top of the sponge. That way the paint won't get too gloopy on the paper. I just used some aluminum foil underneath for easy cleanup. We chose some heavy white watercolor paper, but really any paper will do for this. An additional activity would be to talk about everyone's predictions for what shapes each object will make. Also, what kind of patterns can be created from the objects we've gathered. Everyone's work will be unique, and that's what makes this project so much fun. And now, let's start printing.
Let's try this.
Okay.
Ooh, whoops.
Good job.
Oops, guys. My mistake.
Toothbrush.
Yes, we can make it. Make some lines. Make some lines. Take a little. Very interesting. And now let's try. What can we do with that fork? Mom, can I see that? I'm gonna use green. And I'm gonna.
Thanks for joining me on our Shapes adventure, and thanks to Orson and Edwin for being my big helpers. I'll see you again soon for our next math party all about data analysis. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Yay! Can we do another painting?